Hello everybody! In this video, we are going to look at... Wow, what fancy moves, Kazuo. In this video, we are going to look at Genshin Impact and learn some useful Japanese from this game. Very popular game, and it is a great resource if you want to learn Japanese. So first, we're gonna basically take a little deep dive into some of the character names, because there are characters in this nation called Inazuma, and Inazuma is based on Japan. As you can see, there's cherry blossoms everywhere, Japanese architecture, very old-fashioned style, traditional style. So we'll look at some of the character names and kind of like break them down into their kanji and what they mean, because there's some cool meanings in there as well. So we'll learn that. Then we'll go have a little stroll about the town here, maybe talk to a few people, and look at some conversation. Also, I just want to point out some of the tools that you can use before we get started here. So if you want to learn Japanese from Genshin, just go to your languages. So here is Gengo language, and we can see that we can change the game's language. So that is like the text. So if we change this to English, it'll load to English text. There we go. So game language. But let's change that back to Japanese. I'll show this as well. So then there's also the voiceover language. So I always play in Japanese. So you could switch this around if you really wanted to. So if you wanted to go with just Japanese text, just change this top one. But then you could still have the English voices if you still want to understand, like just from listening. Or reverse, you can have English text and just listen and try and translate in your head the meaning of that based on the text that you've seen. So those are both useful. Let's go back to Japanese though, because we're going to do this full immersion, which I recommend is the best way to go. So yeah, those are both useful. You do have to download some additional assets for the voiceover language, but it's not too bad. So I figured the first thing we're going to do here is look at some of the colorful cast members that are in Genshin Impact, and looking at their names, because their names have special kanji that we can learn from and so forth. So let's have a look at our first character here, Sando Miya Kokomi. So I also have a very useful app, as you can see here. So game to text. Very useful for these types of games where there is a lot of text, and often the text is pretty legible. Although I will note that in order to get this, I had to type it in manually. So it does struggle with backgrounds that aren't always like black. So just keep that in mind. It may be difficult for some sections, but for most things like the dialogue boxes, you might even be able to adjust that and so forth. Those are pretty easy to read from. Anyway, let's have a look at Sando Miya Kokomi's name here. So we see a bunch of kanji. I am using 1010 Reader to scan these characters and look it up, and you can see that's very useful because it actually gives the names. So that's very, very nice. We have several different readings of this. So this name can actually be pronounced in several different ways. Like it could be different names, so to speak. And that's the thing with Japanese, is just because you see the kanji, doesn't mean you know how the character is named, so to speak. But we do know that this character is the bottom one here, Kokomi. But it could also be Kokoa or Kiyomi. So those are other names that use those kanji. Go to kanji here. We see that heart is part of her first name, and it doesn't show it for some reason here, but this is a kanji that you should recognize if you've been studying Japanese. Umi. So Kokomi takes both kind of that heart, or it could also mean mind or spirit. So I think her name really means like spirit of the sea. I think that's kind of how I would translate it, but maybe that's incorrect. But you could say heart or spirit of the sea. And that's how I would translate her name. So it's kind of cool, right? Goes along with her character. You can learn a little bit more about why they're named the way they are. So I think that's a fun aspect, especially if you like these characters. But let's look at the first part. So Sando Miya. So if we look at the first part here, there's two kanji, and they mean coral. So Sengo is coral. And then we have Miya, so that is shrine, or a palace. It's really interesting because her last name is basically like Coral Shrine, or Palace. So that's really interesting, because she kind of like lives, she's like a leader, so to speak, of a coral palace. That's pretty cool. So little things to remember, and good way to learn some new kanji as well from knowing their names. Okay, I think we spent plenty of time on her, so I'm going to click off this real quick, hide that, and let's go to Raiden Shogun. Okay, so this is a character I love dearly because her story is so interesting. But if we look at the game to text, we see that Raiden, if you didn't know this, means thunder and lightning. This one is a very common kanji. So, Kaminari. You'll also look at this one, and look, Inazuma. So I think most people know this, but Inazuma is lightning. So Kaminari, thunder or lightning bolt, and then Inazuma is specifically like lightning. So thunder and lightning. So Raiden. So it's a really cool name. I love this name. And if you've played Hoyoverse games, you know that they always have this Raiden character, or this Raiden Shogun character. So that's always interesting. And then, of course, Shogun, kind of used, it could imply general, but it's really more special than that, I would say. You know, a shogunate is a much more powerful character than just a general of like an army, so to speak. But it's a person in charge that can also control a massive army. So general is pretty apt description for that. And then of course we have our dear Kazuha here, Kaedehara, and then Kazuha. So his family name or surname, Kaedehara. What I really liked about this is, and you'll see this if you look at the first part here, the top kanji, and that is maple. So it's like a maple tree. So kaede, a maple tree. And then if you look at hara, maybe we can find that here. Here we go. So this one here, you can see it has several meanings. Oftentimes you will refer to it as like a meadow or a field, for example. But really what his is going for is this wilderness, you know? So like this character is all about like wandering around on his own. So the fact that he has like maple tree, and then, you know, that field or wilderness aspect is really cool. If we look at his name here, it's really interesting. The reading actually doesn't list any name, but we know it's Kazuha. So we see Kazu, and then this is the kanji for leaf. So it's pronounced Kazuha, not Kazuwa. So Kazuha. And you'll see that his name literally just means like, it's taking the kanji for 10,000 and attaching it to the kanji for leaf. So 10,000 leaves, or leaves, I guess, is his meaning of his first name, which is kind of interesting. So I think that's pretty cool. So 1,000 leaves. And if you've played the character, you'll see that everything is about these maple leaves. So I think his name is very fitting. You would have thought with a name like Kazu, it'd be like kaze, like wind, which maybe there's a little bit of playing around with the name there as well. But if you interpret his name like this from the kanji, then you'll see that it means 1,000 leaves. So I think that's awesome. So not only is it signifying the maple leaf and the aspect of him kind of in the wilderness, in the meadows wandering, but also the 1,000 leaves. So I really like his name. So then let's look at Ayaka. And here I have her name pulled up and it recognized it, so that's good. So if we looked at the first part here, Kamisato, that's the family name, or the surname. And if you've played this game, you know there are two members that you can recruit of the Kamisato family, Ayaka and Ayato. So let's look at Ayaka here. And Kamisato you'll see the two kanji here. So kami meaning god or deity, spirit, and then sato is village. It can also mean, you know, one's parents' home or so forth, but here we're probably meaning like village, right? So kamisato, the village or the like home, so to speak, of the deities. And then if we look at ayaka, we'll see, and this is actually one I'm not as familiar with, so let's look at it together and learn. So Aya, in her name, you can see that, again, I can't preach like 1010 Reader enough because it's so useful. It gives you so much information about each kanji and how it's used and so forth, so highly recommend. But here we're probably looking at this meaning with like design or like cloth. She's really has that kind of design about her where she's very elegant. And then splendor, also to mean flower or petal for ka, so ayaka, or ostentatiousness, which I think is fitting for a family of this stature. So yeah, pretty cool. So I think that's enough with some of these names, but let me know if you enjoyed that and who your favorite Inazuma character is. So you'll notice that all of the, like, or for the most part, all of the people who were like born in Inazuma have their names in kanji, as is expected, because that is how names are formed. They take in different kanji together. You'll notice that Toma, even though you find him in Inazuma, he's not from. So Toma is a foreigner, so he obviously doesn't have kanji. But there are some cases like Goro who just don't have kanji as well, so there's some exceptions for whatever reason. And then also you'll notice that the characters from Liyue, which is based on China, also have kanji, of course. So it's pretty cool just to go through and kind of see that as you look in the Japanese text and so forth. You can see the difference. Okay, anyway, that is enough for characters. Let's move on, shall we? Okay, so I have the music now on, so we can hear Hyaserin's voice, as you can read from her name and hiragana here. Okay, so let's have a look. Again, I'll bring up game text so we can kind of do this together. But this is these are words and phrases you'll hear a lot if you play this game, because you will visit Hyasering quite often. Some very useful like kanji in here, and also some phrasing. So let's have a little bit of a digestive treatment to this. So the first one, we have star. So hoshi, so star. To, so that's just and. And then we have, this is a kanji you will not see too often in everyday life, but shingen. Hoshi to shingen. So stars in abyss. Oh, so that's just indicating our object there. And then mezasu, or in this case, mezase, which is basically telling us to do it. It's like the imperative form, and you can see that as well. It's listed here. That's telling us that it's in the imperative form, which is another useful feature of 1010 Japanese Reader. Mezasu, to aim at, to try for. So she is saying to aim for the stars and the abyss. Both the stars and the abyss, which I always thought was kind of an interesting expression. And then let's look at the bottom text here. So yokoso. Yokoso, that means just welcome. So you'll hear this not really when you enter like stores or so forth, because they'll say irashaimase. Like that's basically their way of saying, you know, welcome or please come on in, those kind of things. But yokoso also means welcome. I actually watched a Japanese streamer once, and she would always say yokoso whenever there's like a new person that would come to the stream. So good word to know. And then here we have Boukensha. So if you watch like fantasy anime or so forth, you might be familiar with Bouken or Boukensha, and that means adventure or adventurer if it's Boukensha. that sha is like a person or a someone. So normally just boken is adventure, but if you attach that sha kanji on the end, and we can actually look at that. Yeah, here we go. So you can see that if we attach it to the end, it has this saying here, so sha. So boken sha. And I wonder if we can, no, it's a little, we can actually go down here. There we go. So here, yeah, you can see the first part, boken, adventure or venture. I like this one. Venture, which is unlikely to succeed. Risky, attempt, danger, hazard, risk. That's correct. But then we have kyokai. So, bokensha kyokai he. So this means welcome, and then this he is like to, it's signifying like to the, what is it? Bokensha kyokai. And we see that kyokai is association. So, Adventure Association. Welcome to the Adventure Association. So let's go find a stall or something. Maybe there's like a food stall we can... Let's go talk to him and see what he says. He probably has some good casual conversation. Okay, so let's break this down as well. So let's, again, go to our game to text since we have it. And let's refresh this. Maybe, this is pretty long, but maybe it'll do it just fine. It's processing. So let's see what he's saying here. So here we have tare, which is our sauce here, like a mirin-based sauce. But if it's in compounds, you often say dare. And then the next one is yakitori, which is essential to know if you ever come to Japan. So yaki meaning grilled something, and then tori is chicken or bird. So yakitori is grilled chicken. So he's just like listing what he has essentially. So yakitori with that sauce, and then sakana no. So sakana no shio yaki. So grilled with salt. So salted grilled fish, which is a common item I guess you can eat in this game. So shioyaki, sakano shioyaki. And then this one's interesting. So it's a special type of dish. So we have kitsune and then ramen, our favorite. So everyone should recognize these characters for ramen in Japanese. And then, yeah, here we have okyatsan. So this is like a guest or customer. And that honorific o is always attached when it's the person talking to a customer, because you want to treat them with respect. So okyatsan. And then if we look at here, so this is again Inazuma, the country that we're in, and we know that it is known as basically like the land of the lightning, or I guess in this case Electro in this game. But it's Inazuma's, and then we have this possessive here, Ryori. So Inazuma cooking, and that's the object as indicated by this particle here. Tabete minai ka at the end. So tabete with that te form, and then minai is with that ka, that question. It's basically saying, why not try? So minai is like also could mean like try. So yeah, here we have up here, especially in this kana form where it's not in like kanji or anything. Then yeah, usually it's in kana. So to try, or you could say to see, but yeah, in this case with the te form, to try. And it even tells us the grammar rule, which is really nice. So here, after the te form of a verb. So why don't you come try eating Inazuma cooking, is what he's saying. And he lists all the foods at the very first part. Okay, and then the next thing he says is ocha. And then he says mo. So ocha is essential to know. That's tea. You should know that word and those kanji. And then mo is also. And then aruzo. And that zo is like, yeah, just like, you could say explanation, or as it says here, like, adds force. Like, oh, we also have this. Like, you're really declaring it. So aru is to have. So we also have tea. And then he lists the different kinds of tea. Genmai cha. So that is green tea with roasted brown rice, as it says here. So genmai cha. And you'll notice that all the teas have cha at the end, so it makes sense, right? They're different types of tea. So moody cha. Moody cha. So moody cha is barley tea. And then oolong cha. So a Chinese tea. Hence why it's in our katakana here. So oolong cha, one of my favorites. And then he says dore ni suru. Dore ni suru. So he's essentially saying, which of these do you want to have, right? And then he also says osake wa utenai zo. So we don't sell sake or alcohol here. And then utenai is just saying we don't sell it here. And then here I don't think we need 1010 to bring up this or game the text, because we know that this is again osake wa nai no. So I'm just saying in a very, I guess, casual way, you could say, no sake, essentially. So osake wa nai. Nai is like, you don't. And then no, adding a question. Hello, thanks for watching, and if you like this kind of content, then please give a like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know if you want to see more videos like this, whether it's Genshin or other video games. I will continue to do my best to translate and provide some interesting conversations and pointers for everyone watching. So, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye!